Assalamu alaikum. Please pray for me because I have back pain. I'm Professor Hayat Diyen. Thank you for your prayer. Now I continue the explanation of the lesson of the verb. I stopped last time on the causative verb on page 2. Now I move on to page 3. So please take your page 3 and look at it so that you can follow what I am saying. Okay, let's start. Last time I was talking about the causative verb. What does it mean, a causative verb? Causative verb, it's a verb that expresses an action that causes an action to be done. Its meaning is like the passive voice, but it's not the passive voice, because the passive voice we use the verb to be. But here we have some special verbs which are called causative verbs. So we are going to see some types of causative verbs and the rules in grammar, how to use them in English grammar. We start with the causative verb when it is followed by direct object and the main verb without to infinitive. For example, let, have, and make. When you have verbs like let and have, make, you will see they are called causative verbs, and they are maybe the true causative verbs because they are the ones which are followed by just the object plus bare infinitive. What does it mean, bare infinitive? It means without to. For example, the infinitive we say to play, to go, to walk, to eat. This is the infinitive that you know and we know. The bare infinitive is when I take off the to. So I just say play, go, listen, talk. These are verbs which are called bare infinitive. So when you have verbs like make, have, let, make sure that you do not use to with the infinitive. In the example on page 3, you have Penny made her husband sell their house. In the second, Penny will have her husband sell their house. And in the third example, Penny let her husband sell their house. I have make, and I have, and I have let. You have also to know that I can have causative verbs, I can have them in the present. Instead of made, I can say Penny makes. I can have it in the present perfect, Penny has made. I can have it in the past perfect, Penny had made. And I can have it in the future, Penny will make. And I can have it in the future progressive, Penny will be making. So the verb make and have and let are verbs which are conjugated in all the tenses. So in my first example, it's in the past. The sentence happens to be in the past. Penny made her husband sell their house. Okay, sell is my bare infinitive. Penny made who? Husband is my direct object. Okay, the function of this noun is direct object. And sell is without to. In the second example, Penny will have her husband sell their house. It's like before. It's like in the example number 1, made. I have who, have her husband, sell their house. In Arabic, I can say, Penny بيني ستجعل زوجها يبيع البيت. And in the first example, Penny جعلت زوجها يبيع البيت. يبيع is in English here in the infinitive. Even in Arabic, يبيع is in the infinitive. So it's almost the same rule. Penny, in the last example, Penny let her husband sell their house. Same rule as before. I have let as a causative verb, and I have her husband direct object, and I have sell as bare infinitive. Okay, I repeat. Causative verbs make, have, let. They are followed by direct object and bare infinitive. I move on now to the causative verb when it is followed with a direct object, with an object, but with two infinitive. Penny wants her husband to sell their house. Penny will allow her husband to sell their house. Penny persuaded her husband to sell their house. There are many verbs like that. Penny likes her husband to sell their house. Penny doesn't want her husband to sell their house. Here, these verbs are very different from make, have, and let. They require the two infinitive verb. Okay, I move to the third class. Causative verb followed with an object, but not followed with an infinitive, but followed with a past participle. The past participle, as you know, you can have it either as irregular, which is going to be just with ed, and if it is irregular, you have to know by heart all those verbs which are irregular. Okay, Penny had, okay, it's in the past. You can have it even in the present. Penny has. Okay, Penny, or in the future, will have. Penny had their house sold by her husband. Penny got their house sold by her husband. Okay, Penny had what? Their house. This my direct object. And Penny got what? Their house. This is my direct object. Notice after the direct object, not like before, I don't have an infinitive, but I have the verb sell in the past participle. Sold. So if you say Penny had their house sell, no, it's something else. This is not the meaning of this. Penny got their house sell. No. It's very awkward and it's incorrect English. Okay? So here, Penny had their house. What's the difference now, I ask you? What's the difference between Penny had their house sold by her husband and in the first example, Penny will have her husband sell their house? Okay, think of this question. Have you thought of the answer? Have you found the answer? Think again. Penny had their house sold by her husband, and on the top, Penny will have her husband sell their house. Okay, the answer is the following. Penny had not somebody, but not the doer. In the first, Penny will have her husband. Penny have the doer. The doer is the husband who is going to sell the house. We are talking about have plus the doer. But look at in the example of Penny had their house sold. Penny had not the doer, but the receiver. It's the house which is sold. So when you are using with the verb have, the receiver of the action, like here, the house, you use the past participle. But when you have, like in the first example, you have as a causative verb, plus the doer, you have the infinitive as bare infinitive. I hope it's clear. If it's not clear, you can write to me on my email, hayat.diyen@gmail.com, and I explain you again this difference between had in this example and had on the top. But I hope it's clear. From the examples above, we can say that there are two causative verbs that are generally used in passive voice. They are have and get. And please here, passive voice is not the passive voice that you have studied in the tenses, because that passive voice is used always and must be always used with the verb to be as an auxiliary. But here it's just a comparison with the passive voice, like what I told you before. Penny had their house sold by the husband. The house is sold. The house is sold. This is the passive. But Penny had their house sold by her husband. This is not the passive voice. This is had causative verb, which looks like the passive. So instead of saying passive voice, say passive form. It's better, so that you will not be confused with the passive voice, because be careful. The passive voice always requires the verb to be, the auxiliary to be. But here I don't have any auxiliary to be. Look, Penny, the type is noun. Had, it's a verb, all right? It's a normal verb here. Their house is a noun. Sold is a verb, okay? By is a preposition. Her husband is a noun, all right? But these verbs have and get, when they are used, like in these examples, when they are used with the receiver of the action. What is the receiver of the action? For example, I hit the ball. I hit the ball, okay? The doer is I, all right? The receiver is the ball which has received the action. So I call it receiver. So in the example, Penny had their house sold. The house is sold by the husband, right? Okay. Who sold the house? It's the husband. So the husband is the doer. He sold what? He sold the house. The house is the receiver. So when you are using have and get with the receiver, make sure that you use the past participle. But when you use have with the doer, you must not use the past participle, like the top example. Penny, for example, will have, this is future, in the past, Penny had her husband sell. I cannot say Penny had her husband sold. No, because sell follows the husband, who is the doer of the action. It's the husband who sells the house. All right, I hope it's clear. There is nothing clearer than what I'm saying now. Okay, I move on to the other examples. From the examples above, we can say that there are two causative verbs that are generally used in the passive form. Let's say passive form. They are have and get. Have and get. Let, never. Okay? You don't have let in the passive form. Usually, we do not mention the doer of the action. Oh, it's here, it's written. The form is subject plus have or get plus object plus past participle. For example, and this is just to clarify what I was saying above, I asked someone to clean my house. I asked someone to clean my house. Okay? I, the doer, and asked is the verb. It's the action. I asked who? I asked someone. Okay? Someone is the receiver. To do what? To clean the house. This is an active form of the sentence. I want to transform this sentence into passive form using a causative verb, not the passive voice. Forget about the passive voice. I want to use just the passive form with the causative verb. So I can transform I asked someone to clean the house. I can transform it to I had. I am talking in the past because I asked. I had or I got, it's the same thing. I got what? I got my house cleaned. Yeah, and we know it's cleaned by somebody, by someone, because someone did the action for me. So here it's a passive. So notice that after had and got, you don't have the doer, but you have the receiver, my house. Okay? Clean what? Clean my house. It's the receiver. All right? Direct object if you want. And after house, you have cleaned in the past participle. It's a regular verb, so it has just an ed. Please note that if the verb get is followed by a personal pronoun or the doer of the action, we do not use past participle. Instead, we use to plus the infinitive. For example, I got Penny to clean my house. Yes, okay. I got Penny to clean. Who is the doer here? Who is going to clean the house? It's Penny. Because I have the doer here, who is doing the action, I use the infinitive with to. I got, or I get, or I will get, or here you can conjugate it in all the tenses. But after Penny, you must use to with the base form. You cannot say, I got Penny clean my house. It's incorrect. We said we use the bare infinitive only with 3 verbs. Make, have, let. When they are followed with the doer. Here, get is not in the class, doesn't belong to that class. Get requires to. Okay? It requires to when we are talking about the doer. The Penny, it's Penny who is going to clean. So I got Penny to clean the house. I will get a mechanic to repair my car again. So notice that get can be used with to infinitive if it is followed by the doer of the action. But get, when it is followed with the receiver of the action, No, it is not followed with to infinitive, but it is followed with what? Have you found it? Great, yeah, it is. It's the past participle. Okay, this is the end of this class of type of the verbs, which is causative verb. Now I move on to linking verb. And I hope you have already an idea about linking verbs, because when we were still in class and we were safe, oh, those beautiful times, yeah, when I remember them. Well, anyway, may Allah bless us with health, and we turn back to our classes. Right, linking verbs. I already mentioned linking verbs in the study of the noun. Linking verbs are special verbs. They are used to re-identify or describe its subject. It's a verb that connects the subject of a sentence to the predicate, to whatever comes after the verb to be, we call it predicate. It does not express an action. That's very important. Okay? So Spain, for example, is in Europe. Spain is in Europe. Is the linking verb. Okay? In Europe is the predicate. Okay? List of linking verbs. There are many verbs which are called linking verbs. The verb look, to feel, to smell. The verb to be, you start with the verb to be, to look, to feel, to smell, to sound, to taste, and I add others, yeah, to grow, to prove, to remain, to turn. Any verb that you use to connect your subject with the predicate, any verb that describes the subject is called a linking verb. Examples. Alan is a beast. Alan is a beast. Here we are describing Alan. So is a linking verb. His father was the headmaster. And of course, linking verbs can be used in the present progressive, in the past progressive, present perfect progressive, future progressive, conditional, yeah, in all the tenses. The only difference between other verbs, they are not action verbs. They do not express an action, an activity. They only describe a state. They describe a state. Okay? They are like stative verbs. I mean, in a way, you can call them stative verbs also, because they describe a state. Alan is a beast. His father was the headmaster. The project is a disaster. Okay? So here you are describing Alan, you are describing his father, you are describing the project. Examples of linking verbs: modifying. And modifying here, I told you last time when we were still in class, modifying or modifier is a word that you are going to use and you are going to see a lot in S2 English grammar and S3 grammar. Modifier. Modifying means describing. But modifier or modifying or modify is a technical grammatical term. Instead of saying Alan is, instead of saying is here describing Alan, is modifying Alan. So here are some examples of linking verbs modifying the subject. Alan seems drunk. The soup smells delicious. His voice sounds flat. Notice that you can you can replace all these verbs by the verb to be. Alan is drunk. The soup is delicious. His voice is flat, right? So here they are all linking verbs and they are modifying the subject. They are describing the subject. Be careful. Seem, smell, sound, the verb to be, etc. They are not action verbs. And be careful. There are some verbs in the list above, and the list is okay. The list is open. It's because there are other verbs. Now I am thinking of the verb appear. It's not mentioned in the list of linking verbs. For example, I say, he appears calm. Okay, he appears calm today. Here he appears calm, appears, he is calm. He appears calm. It modifies him. So it's a linking verb. I give you a trick to use. Just replace the linking verb with the verb to be. If you can, you call it linking verb, right? But be careful. Some of these verbs are sometimes linking verbs, describing, modifying a state, but sometimes they are action verbs. Like appear. He appears calm. Appears here is a linking verb because it describes a state. But he is appearing now. Oh, I see him. He is appearing now. It means he is coming. Appearing here is not a linking verb, but an action verb. Grow. And I think I have given this example of grow in my class while I was teaching you the noun. I told you, I think I mentioned the verb grow. Yeah, I did. I still remember in the amphitheater and in room 30. Yeah, I still remember. I gave you the example of grow. He grows rich. I can replace grows by is. He is rich. Okay? But I can say grow. Here, grow is a linking verb. But the example I gave you in class, he grows a plant. He grows a plant. He grows what? You have a direct object. It means he does an action. He does an action. So grow can be sometimes, it depends on your context. It depends on the meaning of the sentence. He grows a plant. It's an action verb. He grows ill. He grows sick. He grows rich. Here it is a linking verb. So be careful. There are some verbs like that. Yeah. Taste. Yeah. This soup tastes delicious. It tastes delicious. So can I replace tastes by the verb to be? The soup is delicious. Yes, I can. So it's a linking verb. I am going to give you taste in a different context where you will see that it's not a linking verb. I taste the coffee. Here, taste. What is it? It's an action. I do an action. I do an activity. Okay? I taste أتذوق the coffee. So here it's not a linking verb. So be careful about that. So the verbs to be, to become, to seem are always linking verbs. They always link the subject to the predicate to modify it, to describe it, etc. However, some other verbs in the list, they are not always linking verbs. It depends on the context. remember always that linking verbs do not express an action. And I add to you this information. Remember that linking verbs, you can replace them with the verb to be. This is my own addition to you, my own explanation that I add to you. But because there are some other verbs in the list that you have, they can express an action. He smells the soup. Tony smells awful. He smells the soup. All right. Let us see if we can replace smell with the verb to be. He is the soup. Will you accept it? Does it make sense? No. So it's not a linking verb. He smells what? He smells the soup. So it is an action verb. Tony smells awful. Tony is awful. رائحته خبيثة. Tony رائحته خبيثة. Here smell is a linking verb. So be careful about the difference between a linking verb and action verb. A linking verb, it describes a state. An action, it expresses an activity, حركة. Okay, that's all for this part. I hope everything is clear. Next time, I'll move on to the following part. Good luck. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.